All right, Sean, wonderful to meet you, sir. Thank you for taking a minute out for the show today.
Yeah, appreciate it. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, you bet. So let's begin our journey into your work by asking you this. 5 years ago, we were really getting into this pandemic and figuring things out. Ultimately, living through that time period, how much of getting through that is reverberated into what you do in your work today?
Oh my God, wow, that's a great question. Everything. I think the pandemic, you kind of it okay, it was different for everybody, right? And it either hit you really hard, and kind of brought you down, or I think you kind of saw opportunity, you created opportunity out of it. And maybe that's a little too general to assume, but for me, I saw it as a time for opportunity. So, during the pandemic, in the middle of the pandemic, I lost my job. So I was a full-time employee, um, had a W-2 income. I was investing in real estate on the side. And then, basically we're in the process of, we're about to sell the company. Um, and the pandemic just shifted everything. It just shifted the market. It shifted, like the buy sell market. Like all of a sudden, it was a different plan. Hey, we're extending. We're not going to sell. Like we're going to be in this thing another 5 years. They
Yeah.
pivoted. They decided they wanted somebody else, not me, in the position. They let me go, and so I kind of had a decision to make. I was like, hey, am I going to go back and go get another W-2 job, or is this the time to branch out branch out on my own and do what I want to do? So it was at that point I said, all right, I'm done. I'm not working for anybody else again. And that was the beginning of my entrepreneurial career, and everything has kind of blossomed from that point. And so that was September of 2020. So 4.5 years ago now.
Wow. So let's get into the heart and soul of what you do now in 2025. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of grade school kids. Let's say
Yeah.
they're fifth graders. It's career day. The
Yeah.
kid in the back of the room is like, hey, what do you do for a living? How do you answer them?
Oh, I help real estate investors save money. I think that's the simplest way to
Yeah.
put it. I help real estate investors save money, specifically on taxes.
Okay. So what did you want to be when you were that young? When you were in the fifth grade, what was your dream life?
That's a good question. I mean, of course, it was being a professional soccer player, right? That
Okay.
was that was fifth grade. Sean was professional soccer player. I didn't do that, but I did become a field goal kicker playing football, and I went and kicked in high school and college too. So that kind of transitioned into that, and that's what I knew. I think as I got older, I knew I wanted to work for myself, but I didn't know what I wanted to do, right? Like I knew I didn't want to, I guess, just go down the ordinary path. So I would never have guessed this is what I would be doing now, like what I'm doing, and which is, I have a cost segregation firm, but um, I, yeah, I never would have guessed that, but I would have seen myself like branching out, doing something on my own.
So what were the foundational elements that were planted into you to evolve into this career choice? And along with being a field goal kicker in an organized sport, that takes a lot of stamina and moxie. What were those things? And you said you moved to Detroit. So where were you born
Yeah.
and raised?
So I was born in Clearwater, Florida.
Okay.
So right down by St. Petersburg, Florida. We had my dad had a job transfer in the middle of that, or when I was a kid. So we moved to Michigan. Probably the best thing that ever happened to me. Michigan kind of became home to me. It became where all my friends were. This is where I met my wife. All of that, right? So that was really good. I think I've always had this drive internally where it's a matter of like I haven't always been the best at anything, right? So like let's just take like say I played football as a field goal kicker. I wasn't the best in the country, but I was extremely determined at what I was going to do. So that led into opportunities, right? And that's kind of always been my mindset. When I say determined, like I just kept going. It's just like a lot of persistence, right? And when I decide something or set my mind to something, that's typically what happens. Um, so I think that's translated very well. Like that's that type of perseverance is definitely like a skill set. It's not for me, it hasn't been about being the smartest person in the room or um, having everything given to you or anything like that. It's just been about persistence and putting in the work. And so I began my career in public accounting and getting my CPA license. I kind of felt like a fish out of water a little bit, to be honest. Like it wasn't I've always been more of an extroverted person. Always been somebody who's more, builds relationships, love talking, meeting people. And so I think my profile, right, like my personality profile would have been more suited for sales,
Yeah.
not accounting. But I went down that route, and it was a little bit of pushing a rock uphill, right? But I got through it. The perseverance, kept going. It's interesting because that background has led to opportunities combined with more of my natural skill set, which kind of comes full circle of where I am now.
So, who's been kind of a hero, an inspirational force for you in your life?
Yeah, I would say um, my grandfather, probably both grandfathers, honestly. I didn't it's interesting because like my one grandfather, it's just his birthday a couple days ago actually, but this is my dad's dad, and he was always an entrepreneur. He was in accounting, but then he was in real estate. He had a lot of different several properties. He ran his own business, and I always admired him, but I didn't know, I was too young to realize like what he was doing. And so it's kind of interesting because as I get older, I find myself doing the exact same things. I look back and I'm like, whoa, I just went down the same exact path that he did. I did the same thing. And even to the point of like physical location, like we were living in Florida when I was a kid. I'm, I've, we belong to a boat club. We have a boat. It's um, like, uh, like literally a block over from where he used to have a boat here in Michigan, right? Like I live like a mile and a half from where he used to live. And so it's weird how those things kind of come full circle. And I find myself, he was investing in mobile home parks like way back in the day before they were really, I think, no, sorry, not mobile home parks, self-storage facilities. Like he was a controller at a bank, and he was investing. The bank was like actually lending on self-storage facilities. Well, I find myself owning and investing in self-storage facilities decades later. So it's a lot of those synergies that are find myself repeating. But anyways, I would say he's been my hero.
So, let me ask you this. What is the motivation for you every day to wake up to do this work that you do? What is the ultimate motivator?
I love building. I like building things. It's a lot of fun. I really like building my own company. And there's something about owning something and doing it for yourself. It's really a lot of fun. I think I'm more of a lifestyle investor, somebody who, my ultimate goal, I have my wife, I have two sons, potentially more kids, but on the way, but I want to live a life where I can really do what I want to do with my family when I want to do it. That's the ultimate goal. So it's not necessarily to have, the biggest house or the nicest cars. It's to be able to go and travel and do the things I want to do on my own agenda. Um, it's not that I don't want to work at all, right? Like I love operating, I love building companies. So it's the combination of both of that. It's a balance between that family life and that entrepreneurial venture.
So, if you were to walk into a room of people that knew you from a business sense,
Yeah.
and all of you walk through that sea of people and you go up to a podium and you can tell them one fun thing about you, a fun story, what would you tell them?
I would say, yeah, that's a good question. So, um, when I went to college, I was a field goal kicker in high school, right? And so that was always my dream. That kind of came back to the persistence thing. And I used to jump the fence to get into the stadium to go on the field, and I would go kick there. I'd go practice kick field goals, right? And I wasn't on the team yet. And so the tryouts hadn't come yet. I wasn't a preferred walk-on. I was truly like walking on the team. This was at Florida State University. And so I'd go there in the middle of the field and I'd kick. And so eventually they came tryouts, right? It was, I think, October of my freshman year, middle of the football season. So I go to tryouts and we warm up and I'm like, I'm pretty nervous and stuff. I eventually calm down. There's probably like 5 kids there who are kickers. And he lines us up. 2 guys go ahead of me. I don't watch. I go line up, go to kick mine, kick it like perfect kick right down the middle. And everybody else goes. And he goes, all right, that's all I need to see. The tryout was done after one kick. And I'm like, whoa. And he's like, yeah. He's like, I've been watching you. Just needed to see that, like, you could do it in front of us. And so I didn't realize it at the time, but when I'd go there on Sundays and I'd jump the fence and I'd be in the stadium, the coaches, the booth, they were like up at the top of the stadium. That's where the offices were. And so they'd look down and they could see me out there practicing and kicking. And so that's how I ended up on the team. It was a pretty cool story there.
That's awesome. So, following that question, if you look back on your life, everything you have accomplished, what are you
Yeah.
ultimately the proudest of?
I would say my family. I mean, I know that's like a little bit of a cliche answer, but yeah, I've got a 2.5 year old, I've got a 2 year old, or sorry, a 2.5 year old, and I've got a newborn. Like he's about 10 days old right now. So that's I would say, yeah, the wife and kids, like that's what I'm for sure the most proud of. I think um, that's what it hasn't for me, it's always been about building a life like with the people that I want to build a life with. And so I feel like that part is really, has been on track and is on track. And I'm excited about that and, the adventures ahead. So yeah, the family.
Excellent. So, Sean, at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients,
Sure.
colleagues, but you run the show. What's your
Yeah,
perception of you? Who do you think you are?
that's a good question. Um, I think I am uh tough, a tough like entrepreneur who really like, you know, runs things as a perfectionist. But if you run with me and you work with me and you really put in the time and the work, um, you're gonna have a lot of fun. And I'm a lot of fun to be around. But I'm very determined and I take it seriously.
Yeah.
I would say that ultimately is who I am from a work standpoint. And I think I'm somebody who I genuinely like care about others, and I find a lot of joy in the success of others. So that's where I get my happiness. I want it's not I want everybody to do super well. And yeah, I want to be the best at what I do.
Speaking of, if anyone wants to reach out and get involved, they want to hire you, any of the good business, they have questions, where can they go? Where's the best place?
Yeah, reach out to me, Sean, Sean, at mavencostseg.com, MavenCostseg.com, or go to mavencostseg.com and, you can reach out there and, yeah, happy to connect with anybody. I'll share my calendar too.
Excellent. I love it. Sean, this has been wonderful. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your story and best of luck with everything.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Hello, friends. Joe Dimino here. I just wanted to let you know that after 30 years or so, I have finally released my first book of poetry through the mighty Spartan Press here in Kansas City, Missouri. As the creator and host of both Neon Jazz Radio and the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino podcast, along with being a visual artist, I'm ready to embark on a new adventure and want you to be a part of it. You can get a copy online via Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and actually on the streets in Kansas City at the great Prospero's bookstore off 39th Street. You can also visit joedimino.com for links to the book, to more poetry, and everything in my world, including paintings. Thanks for all of the love and support over the years, and please dig the words.